I want to ask you something before I say anything else. When did you last feel completely at home in your body? Not comfortable, not pain-free, at home. The way you feel when something works exactly as it should. When you push and it responds. When you ask and it delivers. Hold on to that feeling, because I'm going to tell you something about it that nobody in the fitness world, nobody in the wellness industry, nobody selling you a program or a supplement or a protocol will ever tell you. It ends. Not maybe, not for some people, for everyone, including you, including me. My name is Frank Calloway. I am 82 years old. I ran my first marathon in Dublin in 1968. I was 24 years old, and I finished in 2 hours, 51 minutes. And I crossed that line feeling like I had discovered something true about myself that I would never have to give back. I ran 42 marathons over the next 3 decades. I coached hundreds of runners, men and women who came to me broken and left capable of things they had never imagined. I built my entire identity, my self-respect, my purpose, my sense of being real in the world around what this body could do. And then one ordinary Tuesday morning in my kitchen in 2006, I picked up a jar of pasta sauce and I couldn't open it. Not because I was tired, not because of a bad grip angle. I couldn't open it because my hands no longer had what it took. I stood at that counter for a long time, the jar just sitting there, and something inside me, something I had spent 60 years building, quietly collapsed. You probably think you understand what I'm about to say. You think this is a story about accepting limitation, about aging gracefully, about finding new purpose beyond the physical. It's not. This is a story about a lie so comfortable, so motivating, so deeply woven into the way driven people understand themselves, that most of you will resist what I'm saying until your own jar moment arrives. And it will arrive. The body is not a machine you maintain. It is a loan, and nobody told you the repayment terms. You are probably somewhere between 30 and 55 right now. Maybe you run, maybe you lift, maybe you track your sleep and monitor your heart rate and feel, underneath all of it, quietly invincible. Or maybe you've started to notice things, small things, a recovery that takes longer than it used to, a morning stiffness that wasn't there 3 years ago. And when you notice those things, you do what people like us always do. You make a plan, you adjust, you optimize. Because the alternative, the idea that this might be the beginning of something you cannot reverse, is not a thought you are willing to sit with. I know, I did it for 30 years. Discipline was my way of refusing to be mortal. I wasn't training my body, I was arguing with it. I was winning the argument for decades. And then one day, without drama, without warning, without the dignity of a finish line, the body simply stopped arguing back. Now I need to tell you about Pete Doherty. Pete was the finest natural runner I ever coached. I met him in 1989 at a club in Manchester. He was 31 years old, lean as wire, with a stride so efficient it looked like he was thinking his way down the road rather than running it. 2 hours 38 in his second marathon. The kind of talent that only comes along a few times in a coaching career. But Pete had something beyond talent. He had will. Absolute, uncompromising, magnificent will. The kind that makes a great athlete. The kind that, past a certain age, becomes a weapon pointed inward. Pete ran competitively until he was 47. Long past when his body was asking him to stop. He didn't taper. He didn't modify. He didn't listen. Every warning sign, the knee that swelled after long runs, the hip that caught on cold mornings, the fatigue that stopped responding to rest, he treated as a weakness to overcome rather than information to respect. In 1998, Pete ran the London Marathon on a stress fracture he had known about for 6 weeks. He finished. He was on crutches 3 days later. The fracture had become a complete break. That injury never fully healed, not the way it should have. By 55, Pete had 2 knee replacements and a hip that would never move right again. He went from running 40 miles a week to walking with a cane inside of 8 years. I visited him in Leeds in 2003. We sat in his garden on a warm afternoon. He watched a man jog past on the street outside his gate. Just an ordinary man, slow and shuffling, not particularly fit. Pete watched him until he was out of sight. Then he said, "I would give everything I have left to feel that again. Just that. Just a slow jog down a quiet street." He said it without self-pity, just as a fact. The flattest, most devastating fact I had ever heard a man state. Pete died in 2014. His heart, worn down by decades of extreme load, gave out at 66. He was found on the sofa with the television on, a shelf of marathon medals on the wall above him, every one of them real, every one of them earned, not one of them worth what they cost. The body keeps the score, not the medal board, not the training log, not the numbers on the watch. The body keeps the score, and it presents the bill on its own schedule, not yours. You are not Pete, maybe, but you have Pete inside you if you are the kind of person this video is reaching. The part that pushes through, the part that treats pain as a character test, the part that has quietly decided that decline is something that happens to people with less discipline than you. I had that part. I fed it for 60 years. I called it strength. It was partly strength. It was also partly terror. The terror of being ordinary. The terror of being just a body like every other body, subject to the same timetable as everyone else. Stop mistaking stubbornness for strength. Stop treating your body like a subordinate that needs to be managed into compliance. Stop using fitness as a way to avoid the conversation your body has been trying to start with you for years. Now let me tell you about my own reckoning, not Pete's, mine. After the jar moment in 2006, I kept coaching for 2 more years. I told myself nothing had changed. I was still the authority, still the man who knew what the body could do. I just happened to be doing it from the sideline now. But something had shifted underneath everything. A foundation I hadn't known I was standing on had cracked, and I felt it every day in ways I didn't have words for. I had never built an identity that didn't involve physical capacity. Not once in 62 years. I didn't know how to be Frank without knowing what Frank's body could do. I had never needed to. The body had always been there, responding, delivering, confirming that I was who I believed I was. Without it, I didn't know what was left. I went through 2 years that I can only describe as a quiet grief. Not depression in the clinical sense, just a persistent gray feeling. A sense of having been evicted from somewhere I had lived my whole life. I was still present, still functioning, still coaching, but I was watching from outside a window that used to be my front door. I didn't talk about it. Men like me don't talk about things like that. We were not raised with that vocabulary. I had spent my entire career telling people to push through discomfort. The idea of sitting with it, naming it, asking for help with it, it was so far outside my operating language that I genuinely didn't know it was an option. The empty trophy feeling is real. I had 42 finisher medals in a box in the spare room. I took them out once during those years, held them, put them back. They felt like artifacts from someone else's life, evidence of a man I could no longer locate. You build an identity around what your body can do and you feel powerful, purposeful, real. You never consider what happens when the instrument changes, because the instrument was never supposed to change. That was the deal you made with yourself. That was the lie at the center of everything. Your body is not your identity. It is your address. And like every address, one day you will have to move. The question is whether you have built anything worth taking with you. For 2 years I hadn't. I had been so focused on the physical that everything else, the relationships, the inner life, the capacity to find meaning in stillness, had been left undeveloped. I was 72 years old, and emotionally I was starting from almost nothing. That is the cost nobody puts on the box. Not the injuries, not the wear. The cost of spending a life so inside the body that you forget to build the part of yourself that survives it. 3 things. Simple things. The things I know now that I wish I had known at 40. The body is a companion, not a trophy. Treat it with gratitude, not contempt. Every run, every lift, every morning it gets you upright and moving is a gift, not an entitlement. The moment you start demanding performance from your body instead of receiving it with thanks, you have begun a war you will lose. Strength is not the opposite of vulnerability. The most physically capable people I ever coached were often the least equipped for the inevitable. Real strength includes the capacity to adapt, to release, to find yourself valuable when the performance stops. If you cannot imagine who you are without your physical capability, that is not fitness, that is dependence. Start building the inside now, not instead of the physical, alongside it. The relationships, the stillness, the ability to be present without producing anything, the capacity to sit in a garden on a quiet morning and find that sufficient. These are not consolation prizes for people who can't run anymore. They are the whole point. The body was always just the entrance. Here is your challenge for today, not tomorrow, today. The next time you exercise, run, lift, swim, whatever it is, I want you to do one single thing differently. At some point during that session, stop pushing, just for 2 minutes. Stop measuring, stop optimizing, stop performing, and just feel it. The breath, the weight of the body, the ordinary miracle of movement that works. Be grateful for it rather than extracting from it. Practice receiving what your body gives you instead of demanding what you think it owes you. Because one day, and I cannot tell you when, nobody can, that session will be the last one at that level, the last run at that pace, the last lift at that weight, and you will not know it is the last one until it is already behind you. That is how it works. There is no farewell performance, no final race with a finish line and a medal and a moment to mark the transition. It just quietly becomes the last time. And then it is a memory. And then even the memory begins to soften at the edges. I ran my last real run in the autumn of 2004. 8 miles along the coast road outside Dunleary. Early morning, the sea flat and gray and enormous on my left. I didn't know it was the last one. I wasn't paying that kind of attention. I was already thinking about something else before I had even finished cooling down. I would give a great deal to have that morning back. Not to run it faster, not to run it further, just to be completely, entirely inside it. To feel every step with the full knowledge of what I had. To say thank you at the end instead of just moving on to the next thing. The shoes by my front door. I keep them there. I don't wear them anymore. I couldn't tell you exactly why I leave them there. Maybe because moving them would mean something I'm not ready to mean. Maybe because every morning when I walk past them, I remember for just a second what it felt like to need them. My name is Frank Calloway. I ran 42 marathons. I coached for 30 years. I spent the first 70 years of my life knowing exactly who I was because I knew exactly what I could do. The last 12 years taught me something the first 70 couldn't. That the man was never in the running. The running was just how I avoided meeting him. Don't wait for the jar. Don't wait for the injury. Don't wait for the morning when the thing you've always done suddenly costs more than you have. Meet yourself now, while the body is still responding, while the voice is still strong, while there is still time to build something that doesn't depend on pace or weight or distance. The body will change. It is changing right now, today, in ways too small to feel yet. What you are on the inside of that body, that is the only thing you get to keep.